So the Unrivaled Draft just happened and they present a new format, star players. They put 22 everywhere. And with the latest video, did this sell me on Unrivaled or did they fumble? I break down the good, the bad, and the cringe in this episode, so let's dive in. So I want to be as fair and unbiased in this as I possibly can and really talk about with a new league that we should be excited. We should be excited for more women's basketball. We should be excited for players trying to take control, especially if you don't like what's happening in the WNBA, putting power into potentially other star players in the league to form their own league, something that could eventually rival something like the WNBA or create a better environment, a one where players get paid, where it's exciting. Then I'm all for that exploration, especially with a new format. And so with that said, I'm going to start off with the good from this latest draft. So I actually like the format of how they decided to draft these teams. I think that the main thing for me is you want to create fair and balanced teams, and it's going to be very hard to do that in a traditional draft style. You might end up a team with all bigs or whatever. And 3v3 has very different demands on players. It's not 5v5. And so from the get-go, breaking them down into the different pods, I really liked those pods. I think kind of like break down to playmakers and posts and young role players and these kind of and facilitators and these kind of different roles felt really good to me, of pulling one player from each of these pods, mix and matching the star level. Overall, I felt like they actually did a really good job in this process. So I applaud anything that's new and revolutionary, and that when you're taking a risk to try to create something better. And I think this is actually was a really good idea from them in order to execute. I also like that when they are picking these teams, they discussed a lot about the specific pool's talents, very defining it, talking about the player matchups, how they would work together, and there was a lot of focus on developing them. So as much as I think that people view or Rivaled isn't selling itself as this really this competitive alternative league, I think it's really kind of more a celebration of like fandom. Like if you like Aaliyah Boston and Lexi Hall and you're a Fever fan and you want to follow them through this, you can. And on top of that, the focus seems, the way the coaches talk and stuff, even though it is a competitive league, there actually seems like a lot of the focus is actually on developing the players. Like this is the off-season alternative to going overseas and playing 5v5. Now you're not going to play 5v5. You might learn different skills. You might stress yourself, but they had a lot of really good moments in this. And even trading players between teams, those discussions were very healthy. So like swapping Skylar for Enrique and, not stacking Fee's team, giving leadership opportunities, having reunion opportunities, Jewel Lloyd and Brianna Stewart with the I almost said the Sonics, taking me back, the Storm. And also I think that there was a point where they didn't trade players. They didn't swap Enrique because they're like, Enrique and Ryan Howard, they're both high volume players. And I love that Phil Handy stepped up and he's like, yo, like you should learn how to play with another player that is a volume ball heavy player. Like that is a good developmental thing for you. So I think from the lens of an alternative to like, hey, what is my favorite player going to do the off season? Do I want them to go over in China and play at hours where I'm not going to probably be awake personally here in the US? Or do I want them to play in something Unrivaled where it's like, I know that like that is kind of the focus. And when you look at some of the coaches that they brought in, namely DJ Sackman, like he is just strictly a skills coach. Like his whole empire is built off of basically online training, working with players individually, WNBA, NBA, all in and outside the league, college players, all that kind of stuff. So I think that the view of like this is just a competitive 3v3 league is not really the full picture. I think this is more of like this is a way for your favorite players to play together and create some hype, but really for them to actually build skills and connect through that. So I actually really like that framing of the league and that alternative of the league once you put it in that context instead of like this is going to be the new 5v5 league. Maybe they'll get there one day depending on how successful it is. We'll see. But yeah, I think there are some good things to take away from this video. Now, bad. I think that, like, again, some of these are going to be critiques in the way that they created this video. Again, my background is as a producer and event coordinator for competitive gaming. So a lot of my job was creating events that got people excited, creating video content, creating physical in-person events, and that kind of thing. And so a lot of my critiques are going to come from that lens when it comes to the format or how they produce this video, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the main thing is like, it felt like there maybe was a plan and the plan fell through, which we'll get into as we go along with this and as I get later in this. But they're kind of lacked a structure. Like they had like a vibe going on. But the first one is like, they didn't really introduce the people in the room. Like they put up name tags as they were kind of introducing people. But the problem with that is that you should be selling the coaches. You should be selling the coaches heavily. You should have a whole video. You should have intros for the coaches that kind of like gives like a quick breakdown of why this coach is like the one. Like think of any like reality TV show you've seen or anything like that when they introduce like the judges and all that kind of stuff, or that special guest judge. They're doing like a greatest hits quick montage of who this person is. And yes, like, you know, we do know who some of these people are. Like you're gonna know Teresa Weatherspoon. Obviously, she was just a coach to the WNBA. You're gonna know Phil Handy, but you might not know Nola Henry as well, like assistant coach for the Sparks. You might, if you weren't like a Sparks fan, you might not know Andrew Wade or Adam Harrington or DJ Sackman or their work and that kind of stuff and the rivalries they might have. Like it's like, sell me on why the coaches are also personalities. So sell me on them. They're part of the show. So lead in. And then also like, who are the VP and like, who are all these other people around the table? It's not just the 6 coaches or like a commissioner. It's like, you have a whole group of like 8 or 9 people around this table. Like intro them, like let us know. Don't just like be like, oh yeah, here's some names and we go. And granted, like the meat of the potatoes is the draft, but like please, like sell me on these people that you're bringing in. Like these are all personalities and things that you should leverage. From the technical side, there's mic issues. Like no offense to Nola. Nola comes off a little bit more soft spoken. Like when they're getting the teams, Nola's not the one like pumping fists and go, yeah, you know, like, which by the way, that actually should be in the good, is that I actually like that the coaches were pumped about the teams and were trash talking a little bit. But they had mic issues where like mics were like super low and I'm having to like turn up the volume. Like that shouldn't show up in a pre-recorded video. On live, I understand, but in a pre-recorded video, like you gotta boost that. You should be testing that before you get in and you're live, and someone should be listening and making adjustments. Like it should not just be that one person's mic is always low because it's placed wrong on their shirt, lapel, hoodie, whatever is going on. And I think the other thing is when they talked about Pod D, they talked about the wild cards, and this is going to get later in the thing. And for those that don't know, ESPN has announced that there is word that Caitlin Clark is not going to join the league, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But when they talked about Pod D and then the wild cards, they said whatever team gets these wild card players, and they tried to sell it like as an advantage of like they get to recruit anyone. So even though we're building these teams and there's these wild cards, the wild card could be Caitlin Clark or Asia Wilson if you convince them to come join your team, or it could be, you know, no offense to Ray, but like another Ray Burrell. Like you know, like it could just be like another player, and it's like, okay, well, that's not exciting, and you're also killing my hope of Caitlin Clark or anyone getting announced. And I'm still sitting here waiting for them to announce or like make some reveal or something in the show, because it's just weird that you would balance teams and make all this stuff happen and not have your full roster of players, because that inherently could make teams unbalanced, and it's just kind of weird. I also disagree with where the wildcard's placed. So where they were placed on teams, I agree with them being on the Lunar Owls because the Lunar Owls have fee, and I don't agree with them being on the Phantom because the Phantom I already feel like is one of the not as strong teams in the league. And on top of that, I feel like the owners, the owners of the league, the founders, should be responsible for filling the league, and it shouldn't be put on like random other teams to like for who's gonna join. Like, oh, go recruit, go find someone, you know, good luck. It's like, come on, like I didn't like that at all. And so finally we get to the cringe, which is they tried promoting this, selling so hard that someone big was going to get announced, mainly Caitlin Clark, clearly, because the video, for those that don't know, had a 2-minute buffer and was thus 22 minutes long. They, in all their stuff that they announced leading up to, they were teasing the number 22. So to go through all of this, it's almost like they had like a PR plan and then they like never diverted once they didn't get Caitlin Clark. And they basically admitted through the Pod D wording that you're gonna have to go recruit someone.
So I will speak on Pod D in the wild card. This isn't a content play that we're gonna pull out December 15th and be like, guess what, Laces? You guys get XYZ player, right? We're gonna try to fill those spots with the best players that we can. Basically, it's going to lead to two teams having an ability to go sign someone, so they still have a chance to be really, really good players. But those players are not signed yet, and can go kind of either way. Someone's got to start recruiting, basically.
Right.
And because, Lexi Hall and, Aaliyah Boston weren't part of one of the teams that got one of these wild cards, like who's selling, right? Like, how are you, who's going to sell and pitch and bring in Caitlin Clark if you weren't going to announce her on that show? Like that would have been a huge announcement if you waited all this time and they came in, they double barreled you and they were like, because this is a guard pool and they're like Caitlin Clark and Sabrina, like even Caitlin Clark would have been huge. It's massive. Like there's a reason that they were going hard to try to get her. But if you hit me with the Sabrina and the Caitlin Clark, then I would have been like, whoa, hey, yeah, let's go. Like this is hype as all hell. I'm on board with Unrivaled. Like sign me up. Buy me my merch, get me my jersey. I'll whatever one she would have been. I don't even like the Lunar Owls logo, and the Phantom is a little childish, but hey, I would have done that. I would have been on board. Choo choo, let's go. But no, we got nothing. We literally got nothing, and it's just like you can't do this. It just makes you look so much worse as a league when you use Caitlin Clark as bait and you deliver nothing, and not even that. But then again, as mentioned, ESPN's reporting she's not in the league. The way you describe the wild card, she's not in the league. That's brutal. That's brutal. With that said, all that done, I think that there is, again, it's a new league. There's a lot of room to improve. I think that I, as a fan of certain players in this league, namely being Lexi and Aaliyah Boston, I'm excited for them. I might tune in to watch them play, watch them develop, see them play in the offseason because I'm invested into the Indiana Fever as a fan. But as far as like their overall execution of this video, of the format, of how they've kind of rolled this out, like, again, new leagues are going to be messy, but it's a big letdown. It's a big, massive letdown. And there's probably a lot of people on the fence or even scalpers buying tickets for their event that are going rabid and wanting to get in on this, that were hoping or betting on the fact that Caitlin Clark or someone would be announced, and it just hasn't happened. So unless there's some magical turnaround special announcement, I don't know why you wouldn't do it in this video. Like there's been a big hit from that part for sure. They're gonna lose a lot of potential fandom, and they knew that probably in advance, but it would be better if you didn't tease people that they were gonna get Caitlin Clark and then not deliver. If you watched it, let me know if there's something that I missed that you picked up. If you didn't watch it and you heard this recap, what do you think about Unrivaled? Are you gonna watch it? Are you excited because of what this happened? Are you turned off because of the way this was formatted? Let me know down in the comments below. Remember to like, subscribe. Remember, as always, you're going to be amazing today because you are amazing. And I'll catch you next episode.